100-12. 100-12. Somehow 14-year-old Vyab Suryavanshi knocking a century off 35 balls in the Indian Premier League wasn't the most absurd, outlandish ton to be scored in the past week. Nope, leave it to AF1, the former Arena Football League, to leave the world, well, at least a small minority of Americans who care about indoor football, stunned once again. When the Albany Firebirds beat the Corpus Christi Tritons 100-12, it raised more than a few eyebrows. Not the 100, mind you, this is indoor football, arena football, whatever you want to call it. It is the league where points are scored for fun. Scoring happens, and it happens a lot, but for a side to score 12 points and lose by 80 plus points, well, that's beyond bizarre.
How bizarre. How bizarre. How bizarre.
You either have to be purposely not trying or fielding a roster consisting of random dudes you just pulled off the street because all the starters have gone MIA. Well, what do you know? Corpus Christi had a lot of key players not suit up for this contest over issues with payment or lack thereof by ownership. It led to an absolute bloodbath that should have never ever been allowed to take place. Then again, when has a franchise not being able to field its starters ever stopped this or just about every other indoor arena football league out there from playing a game regardless? Semi-pros, guys off the street, they'll do fine in a pinch. The 88-point drubbing between Albany and Corpus Christi, it wasn't the most embarrassing game of arena or indoor football ever played. This is a league, of course, where there tend to be quite a few altercations between players and fans in the stands. And a 2-10 Washington Valor side not only reaching but winning the Arena Bowl in 2018 was a far worse look. It also wasn't the most lopsided score in indoor football history. In 2017, the Dayton Wolfpack of the National Arena League, a traveling team that had 0 home games, lost 94-6 against the High Country Grizzlies. They were also shut out 77-0 that same year. In 2011, the Arizona Adrenaline were pummeled 92-6 by the West Texas Roughnecks in an indoor football league contest. Heck, the same Albany Firebirds dismantled the Texas Terror 86-24 in 1996. We've seen bad scores in arena football. We've also seen bad games. We've seen embarrassing moments, but nothing offered the pure, uncut, raw sadness that was on display in the American Bank Center. We begin with what has to be the most surreal moment of this game, because if all of the other tomfoolery wasn't enough, well, this sequence of events, I'm just going to level with you here. I, in all my years of a sports fan, have never seen anything quite like what I'm about to show you. It makes no sense whatsoever. I'm not even sure you're ready for this.
You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
Corpus Christi is trailing 87-0 late in the third quarter, and they have the ball. If we're being honest, the Albany Firebirds defense is playing at about quarter speed at this point in the game. It's 4th down, the Tritons are going for it, and the Albany defense just sort of lets Mo Strong run a go route and score a touchdown. How does one celebrate a touchdown that cuts the deficit to 81 points? Maybe you just want to put your head down and get back to the sideline as soon as possible. Oh no, guy. Please tell me you're not doing what I think you're doing right now.
Yeah, he proposed to his girlfriend. Wow.
Strong goes over, gets down on one knee, and pops the question in the midst of being on the wrong side of one of football's worst ever losses. You're a football player. You know what an audible is, and sometimes in life, you gotta call an audible. Do this some other place at some other time, heck, even after the game. I would say if you were compelled to do it during a game after scoring a touchdown, at least wait a week. Then again, it doesn't look like the Corpus Christi Tritons are going to be playing another game in any other week at this point. However, do you really want your proposal to forever be associated with whatever was happening in Corpus Christi on this day? You were losing 87-0 before scoring. Those 6 points are not enough to justify this proposal. There's a time and place for everything in life, and this was not the place nor the time. Yet somehow it gets worse. As Strong is celebrating his newfound engagement, the Tritons have the extra point blocked. But wait, there is more. The extra point is blocked. It's time for the Tritons to kick off once again. This time Strong is back on the field. The ball hits the net. The Albany player drops it, picks it up, and somehow saunters down the field untouched for a touchdown. Dude, you should not have proposed at this moment in time. I guess for this guy's marriage's sake, let's try to find some silver linings here. On the bright side, the second half was competitive, 21-12 in favor of the Firebirds. Of course, that means the halftime score was an astonishing 79-0 in favor of Albany. Another positive, not too many people saw this beatdown, and the tens of locals who did turn out seemingly stayed for the entire second half, and they saw the touchdown in the proposal. You know, I want to say props to them. It takes a lot to stick around after halftime when your home team is getting beat 79-0 in any form of football, whether that is the NFL, college, arena, peewee, like sticking around, sticking it out for reasons. I don't know why they were there, but they stayed, and I have the utmost respect for that. Also, shout out to the commentators who tried their damnedest to keep things positive here. They were dealt a bad hand, and they did everything in their power not to have an on-air breakdown. I have nothing but respect for the really rough 3-hour shift they endured on this day, because it was not a good game to be on play-by-play or color commentary for, and they powered through it. But make no mistake, what happened on this day in Corpus Christi at the American Bank Center was the saddest game of indoor football ever played. It wasn't just about the score. It wasn't just about the player who was trailing by 80 points proposing to his girlfriend, or the fact the next two plays involved his team having an extra point attempt blocked and conceding a kickoff return for a touchdown. It was everything from start to finish. The circumstances surrounding this matchup, well, it is a sad but familiar tale when it comes to arena football. The 2020s version of the AFL come AF1 has proven time and again to be a failure. It fails players, it fails coaches, it fails fans, it fails the legacy that was built up before it. You're probably wondering, how the hell does a team lose a game by 88 points? Well, in the case of Corpus Christi, you start by having issues with players overpayment. We don't know the details of what happened here yet, but it appears that some players felt or were not getting paid. These rumblings came to light on social media. Some even mentioned how they weren't suiting up over this non-payment. Going into the game, things were not looking great. According to the Tritons score sheet from the previous game at home, they had 17 players suit up. Against Albany, they only had 6 guys listed on the score sheet. Of course, that isn't enough to line up in a legal formation either on offense, defense, or special teams in an arena football game. You need 8 players to do just that. Now, of course, they had more than the 6 who were listed, but they were not included in the system. Then again, no one bothered actually keeping stats for the score sheet apart from the backup quarterback's attempts. Like, I don't know why the AF1 felt compelled to put this up on their website. It's just laughable. Details here are still emerging, but we know several Corpus Christi players opted not to suit up for the game against Albany. The Firebirds did have some idea this was going to be the case after the game. The coach and some of the players made mention that things didn't feel normal or right as they were going to the arena on this day. Ultimately, they were just a lot of rumors, conjecture, rumblings that something was happening down there. So in order to field a team on this day against Albany, here's what Corpus Christi ownership did. They seemingly plucked a bunch of random guys with some football experience at the very last minute. The situation was so bad and so confounding that the Corpus Christi announcers didn't even know the names of the players playing for their team. This was evident on the second touchdown scored by the Tritons.
Quick throw to the right. Caught! Touchdown, Tritons! Had to go back for it, but he made a spectacular catch. Yes, he did.
The starting quarterback was Kyle Cool, a player who had some indoor football experience during the mid-2010s, and at least we know who he was. There were a lot of other guys suited up for Corpus Christi on this day that were just unidentifiable. And the final score obviously reflects that fact. Do you remember when the Philadelphia Soul didn't play their players for week 1 of the relaunch of the AFL last year? They then randomly brought in a bunch of dudes from an AAL2 team, put them up in a Super 8 hotel before sending them out to face the Louisiana Voodoo in a venue where people were serving as the wall. That slapdash game ended with a final score of 53-18. What happened in Corpus Christi wasn't a case of one team being better than another team. It wasn't a case of one team simply just not showing up or not being ready to play. What happened here is that the Tritons were allowed to take the field with what wasn't even a team. It was literally just some guys out there who were trying to make up the numbers, and it should have never been allowed to happen in the first place. If Albany wanted to, they probably could have scored 200 points here. It was like watching a baby play Madden. The Tritons had zero chance, and it wasn't about coaching or the players they did get. They didn't have enough time to come together as a team. This was a game that should have been forfeited, and ownership probably knew that heading into it. The sequence here that best encapsulates the absolute madness that happened between Albany and Corpus Christi took place with about a minute left in the game. Down by 88 and with the defensive back in at quarterback, not only does Corpus Christi keep throwing the ball, but they call a timeout with 45 seconds left in the game. Come on, people. There is no 88-point play in that playbook. It is time to get the hell out of there. Why are you extending the misery? Run the ball, take a knee, doesn't really matter. There is nothing to be learned at this juncture of the game. Go home, end it. Please do the world a favor. What was this great play call? Why did Corpus Christi call timeout right here, down by 88 of all things? Well, it was so they could draw up a play that saw the defensive back turn quarterback, throw the ball about 6 rows into the stands. Turnover on downs, and thankfully the Firebirds can mercifully just end this game for everyone involved. Oh wait, no, they didn't want to do that either. Instead, with some 30-ish seconds left, they're still out here throwing the ball. They managed 2 incomplete passes and extend a game that should have ended a long time ago. It should have ended at halftime. Honestly, this thing could have been over at the end of the first quarter when the Firebirds led 35-0. Shall we put a bow on this nice display and just wrap it up in the complete sad package that it was? At some point during the fourth quarter, the play-by-play guy's microphone goes off. He's there, he's talking. The color commentator, his microphone is still on.
Right now, the Firebirds aren't really doing too well with coverage.
But as Albany goes on to score point number 99, all you hear is just this faint voice in the background. You know it's there, but it's just not happening like it should. It's just a moment that really embodies everything that AF1 has become.
Looking left, touchdown Wade. What a throw.
In the aftermath of the game, the Tritons released 8 players and suspended a few others. The AF1 put out a very vague statement on the situation. For those that follow the happenings of this disaster of a league, the situation is just one that is all too very familiar. The thing is, though, that it goes all the way back to the AF1's terrible, no good, very bad offseason. Those running the league talked about stability, finding committed owners, only to seek out the exact opposite of that. 5 expansion teams were announced for the 2025 season, and a grand total of 0 would take the field. And then you have the situation surrounding the Orlando Predators. They wanted to delay joining the league until 2026 so they could go through some sort of sale or whatever. And those running the AF1 threw a hissy fit and expelled them from the league entirely, despite the fact that weeks and months later, all of those expansion teams would be given permission to do the exact same thing. Then we have the Corpus Christi Tritons. They originally had planned to be in the National Arena League in 2025. They, though, were removed from the schedule. Reasons here remain very murky. At some point in 2024, the Tritons ownership group wasn't in full compliance with certain regulations that the NAL had set. That ownership group had said that they became fully compliant at some point in the year, but it led to this disagreement, and those running the NAL was like, nah, we're good. We don't really want you around. We may not know the full details of that situation, but what we do know is that there were quite a few red flags surrounding the franchise, but not enough red flags or warnings to put off the AF1. What did they do? They said, screw it, brought Corpus Christi aboard anyway. Now, midway through this season, well, they're potentially not paying players. They're an embarrassment on the league, and they were just on the receiving end of the saddest loss in arena football history. Just when you think the AF1 can't get any sadder, it can't get any lower, someone opens up a trapdoor and finds a whole new level at the bottom. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to know about the story of college football coaching's biggest enigma, check out the video in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. And for the moment the NFL draft truly jumped the shark, that'd be video lower left-hand corner. Until next time, I'm Shine Hollis. This is the Touchback, and as always, hashtag take it out to the 25.
Every time